across miles of forest, but one of its smallest victims cannot leave. 14 feet above the ground, an entire nursery is hidden on a branch thinner than a finger. At first, it looks like nothing more than a patch of lichen growing on the bark. Inside are 2 chicks, only days old, still weeks away from being ready to fly. Their home is built from plant down, lichen, and strands of spider silk holding everything together. And every part of this hidden world depends on a single parent, the female.
I've got food for you.
For now, the chicks depend on her for every meal, and most of that food must be collected outside. But feeding them means leaving the nest, just as the forest begins to change. Then, the first gust reaches the tree, and the tiny nursery moves with the branch beneath it. The storm is approaching, but growing hummingbirds cannot simply stop eating while they wait. Nectar powers her extraordinary metabolism, but the chicks need more than sugar to keep growing. Tiny insects provide the protein her nestlings need to build feathers, muscle, and rapidly growing bodies. Back at the nest, the chicks can do little but remain low while the entire branch begins to sway. The nest is not rigid. Spider silk lets its walls flex as the branch moves beneath it. For a bird this small, even ordinary wind can demand constant corrections in flight. She returns with another meal, using every calm second before the weather makes flying much harder. Above the canopy, the storm has swallowed most of the sky. The remaining daylight is disappearing fast. The warning reaches the forest first through movement, leaves turning, branches bending, and wind arriving in pulses. The female responds instinctively, lowering her body and gripping the branch as another gust passes. The nest is still dry, but somewhere beyond the trees, the storm has already begun to break. For a few final seconds, the nursery remains dry. Then the air changes again. The first drop misses the nest, but at this scale, even its spray reaches the walls. Seconds later, the rain finds her too, beading across feathers built to shed water. Now the nest itself is taking hits, while the chicks instinctively stay below its rim. As the rain strengthens, the female returns whenever conditions still allow her to control the flight. When she can, her own body becomes the nursery's first shield against wind, water, and lost heat. Then the gaps between the drops disappear. The warning is over. The real storm has arrived. Rain now falls faster than the canopy can intercept it, soaking everything exposed beneath the leaves. But water is only half the danger. Every stronger gust transfers its force directly into the branch. The walls give instead of cracking, while silk bindings keep the wet fibers connected as the nest moves. She can shield the chicks from rain, but she cannot stop the entire branch from moving beneath them. Above them, thousands of droplets are beginning to combine into something heavier, runoff from the canopy. A single leaf can collect dozens of drops, then release them all at once. When the gusts become too strong, staying over the nest may become harder than leaving it. For the first time, the chicks face the storm without her body above them. She has not abandoned them. For a moment, the wind simply controls where she can stay. Higher in the tree, another weakness is forming, one the nest cannot detect or escape. The camouflage begins to fail first. A piece of lichen finally tears free from the soaked outer wall. Then the wind eases for only seconds, and she uses the opening immediately. But above the nest, the damaged twig has reached the edge of what it can withstand. Then the weakened twig finally gives way, and the shock travels through the branches below. The nest escapes the falling branch, but not the force that follows through the tree.
Chitter, 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 peep.
The impact releases water trapped above, sending a sudden sheet across the nest wall. Each movement now concentrates stress, where the tiny cup is anchored to the branch. The nest has survived every hit so far, but the strongest part of the storm is still moving in. The next gust arrives before the branch can settle, and this time, the female cannot remain above the nest. Now there is nothing between the chicks and the rain but the walls of the nest itself. At the weakest edge, a few fibers begin to slip, but the main silk bindings still hold. The branch drops, twists, and rebounds. For a moment, the entire nursery hangs at an angle. Rigid walls might crack here. Instead, flexible fibers absorb part of the movement and pull the cup back. The lull lasts only seconds. One final blast of wind is moving through the canopy. This is the hardest bend yet. If the attachment fails now, there is nowhere below for the chicks to go. A few outer fibers slip. The main bindings do not. The tiny cup stays connected to the branch. The branch rises again. The nest is damaged, soaked, and still.